Now, on a final matter, later this week, the Senate will consider an omnibus spending package to address a number of critical priorities, from rebuilding America's infrastructure to fighting the opioid epidemic. In particular, building on the funding agreement passed in February, the measure will deliver the resources and certainty that the American military deserves. To be specific, this legislation will provide the largest year-on-year increase in defense funding in 15 years. After years of disproportionate cuts to our armed services, Congress has begun to provide adequate resources. To put an end to the harmful decline in combat readiness, to fulfill our commitments to American families who sacrifice through service, many of them in my home state of Kentucky. For our men and women in uniform, this means a well-deserved pay raise. For our veterans back home, it means increased oversight and modernization in the Veterans Administration care system, thanks to a record level of VA funding. Our warriors on the front line deserve to be trained to the highest standards, as do the units that replace them. Now our commanders can work to restore combat readiness, and not a moment too soon. Threats around the world are only growing in number and intensity. By strengthening our investment in missile defense, by funding new weapon systems, by scaling up shipbuilding and aircraft procurement, and by investing in our all-volunteer service members, we will send a strong message to our allies and our foes alike that America's military is regaining dominance. This week, my colleagues will have the opportunity to follow through and address the pressing needs of the defense community. I hope each of them will join me in voting to swiftly pass the omnibus, thus giving our armed forces the resources they need and deserve.